All right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. This is Newsflash. My name is Spencer Walsh. On today's show, we got the latest on impeachment. 49% now back Trump's impeachment. And here's the key part, removal as well. We get the latest on what's going on with impeachment and the public support. We'll take a look at Trump's relationship with endless wars and how that may be a bold strategy to win in 2020 and how he may not really need to be the only one who would be using it. So we'll also take a look at Trump's relationship with Twitter, the state of the 2020 race, and a little bit more if we can fit that in as well. It's going to be a great show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have also with us today Glenn Bradford returning. Thank you so much for joining us once again, Glenn. Always good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Spencer.
All right. So you obviously have been following this impeachment closely, as I'm sure most people have, and it definitely has been a pretty eventful week. What would you say are some of the most important parts and some of the most key news pieces that you would highlight from this week?
I guess the one of the biggest was, as far as witnesses go, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman was a very important witness. He was on the call with the Ukrainian president and Donald Trump, so he's a first-hand witness, and he was the one who went to the White House lawyer, the top NSC lawyer in the White House, to voice his concerns about the call immediately after the call ended, and that prompted the lawyer he was talking to put the transcript of the call into that super secret server. So he's a very important witness. The other thing that happened that was important was this vote on impeachment in the House. It was really the first formal vote on impeachment, and it also set the rules of the impeachment process going forward into the more public portion of the inquiry. And I guess another piece of news was that the public transcripts are going to start being made public as early as next Tuesday.
And these are the transcripts from the depositions?
Correct.
All right. So first, let's start with this guy Vindman, who was on the call, and how did he get into politics? Like, what was his role? Why was he kind of placed on this call? And if I take correctly, he was the guy who was kind of spoke up, and he told the right people, who eventually then one of them turned into the whistleblower that started this whole affair.
Yeah, he's actually an immigrant from Ukraine. He was born in Russia, I think. He came to the U.S. as a very young child. And he says he's always been very grateful to be an American citizen. So he got into public service years and years ago as a soldier. He went to Iraq. He was wounded in the Iraq War. And then I don't know exactly how he got involved in the National Security Council, but I think it helped that he could speak Ukrainian, and he just wanted to continue his public service.
And so that really probably was not a situation that he bargained for, getting into public service in the first place. Yeah, you also talked about this very crucial vote with Nancy Pelosi kind of taking away one of the Republicans' main gripes with impeachment, the fact that they haven't been allowed to have a voice in it, which never really was true, because there were plenty of Republicans allowed in those committee hearings to ask questions. But what were some of the things in this resolution, and how does this kind of like set the boundaries for more of what's to come in terms of impeachment hearings?
Well, it pretty much sets the same kind of rules that were set up in the prior impeachments, in the Clinton impeachment and the Nixon impeachment, It allows for White House counsel to be present during the hearings and allows Republicans to call their own witnesses, um, things of that nature. They they tried to make it as fair as possible. Some of the things that the Republicans, if they want to do, it has to come up to a vote in the House Intel Committee, so they could be shot down if they want to do something that the Democrats don't like. But I think that's pretty standard fare for these kinds of rules of impeachment that we had in the past.
So pretty much just setting out the basic kind of ground rules. That's not much of an aberration, but just this nothing crazy in these this bill here. Would you say?
Yeah, I'm sure the Republicans will find something in it to object about because they've been pretty much strictly criticizing the impeachment affair on process terms. And although I don't think there's really much for them to criticize about these House rules that were just voted on, they'll probably find something. They've said that the entire impeachment process is unconstitutional. I don't know where they get that from. It just seems to be them, standing on a chair and yelling.
I heard it was called Soviet style.
Yeah, Soviet style. Yeah, really awful stuff. I don't think it's that at all. I just think that they really have nothing else to say when senators and congressmen from the Republican Party are cornered by members of the media to get them to comment on the president's behavior. They usually refuse to speak, or they say they want to hear more facts. Or they say he didn't do anything wrong. They're very reticent about making any kind of comment because they don't know what the next shoe is to drop. So they've already been burned by proclaiming that there was no quid pro quo earlier on in this inquiry, and then that argument has fallen apart. So
with Vindman's
they're pretty nervous
right?
about what they can say, and so the talking points for Republicans are changing, and now some of them are saying they might admit that there's a quid pro quo, but that it doesn't rise to the level of something that's impeachable.
Yeah, that's definitely a very tough situation, and it kind of happens, I think, really with a lack of coordination between all of these entities, and not all of them are very kind of coordinated. So, yeah, that's definitely kind of a thing that is happening right now. And the reason why that quid pro quo argument did fall apart was because of some of the stuff that Vindman did say, right? Which is probably why he was so hostily attacked in the right-wing media.
Yeah, I mean, basically from the initial transcript of the call with Zelensky, President Trump didn't make an explicit quid pro quo. The one line in there that looked very suspicious was that he said, "But can you do us a favor, though?" But since then, once you've had this march of witnesses come through and get deposed, it's become very clear that the entire shadow Ukrainian foreign policy was animated by this quid pro quo. In other words, you won't get your weapons, you won't get your aid for weapons, you won't get your White House visit unless you do these political investigations for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much the kind of I'd say probably the consistent fact pattern that has come up out of this. But in your estimation, what comes next? What are some of the big things that we have to look forward to in terms of the impeachment calendar?
Well, the releasing of the public depositions will be a big thing because even though most people like you and I won't read all the depositions, they'll be the media will be scrutinizing them and giving us all the highlights, and so There's probably a lot of things that were discussed in these hearings, some that lasted about 10 hours for a lot of these key witnesses, that will come out. More details, a fuller shape will emerge of the foreign policy toward Ukraine that the three amigos were pursuing over the last few months. So there's that, and then sometime maybe middle to end of this month, they'll start the public hearings, and they'll bring all these witnesses back who got deposed and now put them in front of TV cameras and pretty much ask them the same questions they got during their deposition so that the American people can hear what they have to say. It's always more powerful to hear someone speaking on TV than it is to read a transcript after the fact.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting look of what's to come. Definitely this process is not slowing down in any way, shape, or form. It still, I think, will probably continue to happen, at least for the time being, I would say, in the margins, until things get really more serious and get kind of maybe the real thing, the real vote, which could, when would the real vote happen? This is sometime at Thanksgiving, right? This is what I heard.
Yeah, I think that's probably a bit optimistic. I think that the vote would probably happen sometime in December, but before the holiday recess. And I don't really think the Senate will take this up until January. I know that Mitch McConnell wanted that to be moved up and to have the whole Senate process be done before the new year, but I just don't see that happening. But it won't be delayed that much more. And certainly both parties realize that speed is of the essence here because you don't want to get too far into the 2020 election campaign with this impeachment stuff still hanging around. If the president is impeached and if he is, by some slight miracle, removed from office, the Republicans are going to need some months to get together a new candidate. I guess there are some people running already, but maybe some more will want to enter the race. And there's a certain amount of fairness that goes along with giving them enough time to prepare before the election. And of course, I think the speed also works in the favor of I think the Democrats, frankly, because the scandal is still fresh in people's minds, mm-hmm. and the more this drags on, the more tiring it will get for the American people. So I think that it's more fair to do it quickly, and I think it's probably more advantageous for the Democrats and maybe even the Republicans. They just want to get it over with too. It's been a very difficult time for Republicans on the Hill trying to deal with these questions every day that they get peppered with by the press. And I'm sure they want it to be over with as well, one way or the other.
Yeah, that definitely seems like something they would want to move on from for sure. We'll take a look at what the American people think in just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, here's what's happening on the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. New episodes of Newsflash will always be fresh at 10 p.m. on Sundays with Thursday bonus episodes. Go check out episode 345 with James Stanley talking about the death of the leader of ISIS. Pretty crazy stuff. Also, find out about the revolution no one's talking about on the brand new Season 2 premiere of Red Alert. It's back, folks. Also, Uncultured live Fridays, just at now officially starting at 7:30. Also, we have a new merch store. Go check it out, Spreaker.com/TSWS. Scroll down, click that Teespring link to go support SWRN. You know you love it. This is what's happening on the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. And of course, we do just have a new merch line out, so you can check that out on Spreaker.com/TSWS. Click that Teespring link. And also, this Monday night at 11,